12:11, Colourful Life with me, Rosemary Laryea, with you until 1 o'clock. Now, Sylvia Krupinska is in the house to talk about all things arts. A very good afternoon. Happy New Year to you, Sylvia.
Happy New Year, Rosemary. Thank you. Good to have you back.
Oh, thank you. Listen, you've been travelling extensively yourself, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I've visited Azerbaijan and Abu Dhabi as well. So
all in what? In about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks?
Something like that.
And is that all art related?
The first one is I did an exhibition in Azerbaijan, international art show, and the other one is more of a research trip of desert. Yes.
Okay. And so will that research be used in your art?
I hope so. I can somehow join it and make new work from
Dedication to our art. Well, welcome back to you as well. And how did your LA exhibition go?
Oh, thanks for asking. It's on, and we've got the private view on Saturday in Santa Ana, Oca. So we're very excited.
Absolutely.
4 of the artists are already there, so they'll be representing us.
And just remind the listeners again as to how you were chosen for the LA exhibition.
Oh, yes. We were chosen by the curators from California, from the museum, Oca Museum. They worked tightly with the debut contemporary in Notting Hill, and that comes as collaboration, which we're very happy about.
And how many of you were chosen for the exhibition?
29 of us,
right.
Exactly, yes.
Well, congratulations to you again,
Thank
Sylvia.
you.
Okay, so your artist of the month today is
Patrick StPaul. He's got so many titles. I can say he's a sculptor, he's a painter, he's a mixed media artist, and most of all, a storyteller of his own. I met Patrick at the other art fair early on at the end of the year, and as I was interviewing 9 other artists, his work just completely captured me. The way it's presented, the way how he organized it, labeled it, and the content, most of all, was very, very unusual. Maybe I should tell the listeners the website so they can follow on as I talk.
Absolutely, because I'm glad you mentioned unusual, because I've visited his website and it looks like a science laboratory.
Yes, I'll talk about that very soon. So the website is www.patrickstpaul.com, which is Patrick RICK StPaul, StPaul.com. So feel free to visit it as we speak. I'd like to say a few words about Patrick and how he got into the artistic career, if I may. Patrick StPaul abandoned his successful career in advertising, in fact, 10 years ago. And after that, he went to Scotland, joining a group of artists and musicians in remote Scottish mountains and forests, where he lived for a year in very, very hard conditions. Over there, he did a lot of walks in the country, collecting different pieces of wood, bones, skeletons, even different metal parts. And on one occasion, I read on his website, he travelled 700 miles to just pick up the spine of a sheep from some abandoned mountainside. So he's very, very kind of almost obsessed with the animal parts and the joining them together with other objects, creating different artifacts. Then in 2006, Patrick has moved down to London, where he has his studio in South London until now. Patrick was born in Hertfordshire, in Kent. He was brought up in Kent, and he studied at the Medway and Exeter College of Art and Design. And also, he lectured at the University of Arts at Camberwell College and also in Plymouth and Birmingham University. So he's got quite a lot behind him.
I'm just wondering, I mean, you mentioned that he was in advertising, and he's got quite I suppose, a passion for animals and the skeletons and what have you.
You can say that, yes.
Yes. I'm just wondering, when he was in the advertising world, was it with the same vein that he used to do his work as well?
I'm not familiar with his career over there. I think he's put it behind him, but as far as I understand, he was very good at it as well. So I think he brought everything he does. He kind of does very thoroughly, and he seemed very organised when I talked to him.
I'm just wondering whether or not that's been a theme, throughout his career.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about his art.
Let's say maybe the easiest way the listeners can imagine his work is me describing it, maybe perhaps 2 or 3 artworks. So I'll start with the connection with family again. He and history. His family. He was brought up with his parents. They both were historians, and that definitely significantly influenced his creative career as well. The work he created, called The Family Silver, in 2007 and 2008, he did a similar installation of it, consists of pieces of cutlery, where he would exchange, for example, a handle of a fork with a piece of a bone. He would exchange the handle of a knife with a fish bone, with the bone sticking out, creating a sort of a hard fan. He would exchange different parts of a spoon with the wood, and creating the family silver of kind of going back into the future, the history, and kind of recreating the family silver, he called it. So I thought that was quite intriguing, the way he looks at it.
And I'm just thinking, whose bone is this?
Yes.
Where's he getting these bones from?
That made me think of another thing here we talked about, is often a question pops up in when people visit his studio or even see exhibitions. Is this real? Is this real, Patrick? What are these? Not only children, but also adults are asking this, and the answer is yes, it is.
So where is he getting his material from?
I think, I read about on one occasion, a school in Hackney closed down. The zoology department was shutting, and a friend of a friend let him know, and he had a chance to take over the skeletons and skulls and the bones of the department, and loaded his car full and brought it to his studio in South London. But also he does a lot of extensive walks when he's in the country. He was describing when he was living in Scotland. He did a lot of these, and he still keeps those memories and uses it for his inspirations today.
I'm just also wondering what Patrick StPaul looks like, because I'm hearing the bones and the skulls. Does he look like a regular guy?
Absolutely, yes. It's a person you can't really get bored around. He is very funny and good to talk to, and he doesn't look like a...
Doesn't look like a mad scientist.
No.
If you just tuned in, welcome along. Sylvia Krupinska is in the house, and she's honouring Patrick StPaul. We'll talk some more to Sylvia after the sounds of Miss Carleen Anderson with Mama Said. 12:23, Colourful Life with me, Rosemary Laryea. Still in the studio with Sylvia Krupinska, who is honouring Patrick StPaul. Now, Sylvia, I mentioned that Patrick's website, where, it looks like a science lab. I could also see that he's got a quote there, and he says, "It's not what you know that matters, it's the way that you know it." What does he mean by that?
Yes, Rosemary, the only way how I can translate it into my ways, a lot of his work is almost totem-like. You can see the scientific quotation, you can see the jars, the lids, the glass domes. That is a very scientific looking, but beyond that, there's another layer to it. I think he's trying to say is not what you see, but is what you know about it, is the other perception of what you see. You can translate it differently. So almost the first impression is not all of it. There are many layers to it. Yeah, that's kind of how I read it.
Okay, like never judge a book by its cover. Similar, I suppose, to that.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us more about his work, because I see something that looks like a brain as well in the jar. But
yes, there's so much to explore on his website as well, and there is a blog I wrote about him as well if someone is interested. But perhaps I'll start with the influential people and that he mentioned. No particular order, he said. For example, Walter Benjamin, the German philosopher, is someone who is admired for years. Cornelia Parker, the artist, she's doing a lot of similarly kind of put installations together. She's storytelling similarly to Patrick, and also he's a history teacher, Mr. Barker. who taught him many things, but one of the main things he taught him is the little parts of everything, elements put together, create the culture and the future. So every little thing counts, and his approach to making and installation of his work is very much about that, the details and the proper way of showing it tells the story the way it should be. From then on, I'd like to move on to, if I can, to the next artworks.
Yes.
Those are connected with music. First one is called Prelude, and if you can imagine a violin bow, instead of the soft string part, he changed it to barbed wire, and all this is set in a silk case, which is contrasting with the barbed wire. So he's playing again with this, also in the title Prelude, and how do you approach the art? How do you look at the music? That's one of the works. I'll leave you to it, whatever you take from it. Another piece of violin bow called Andante, which is in musical terms, I believe, a moderate tempo in music. There is another violin bow. This time, instead of the barbed wire, he used the sheep's teeth to almost like put beads on the string, which is another way of exploring that musical quotation, perhaps through the artistic object.
So he's replaced the strings for teeth.
Yes, there is a string which is joining the teeth all the way from the beginning to the end of the violin bow, which is it makes you think, where did you get these teeth? You know, but I think he already has extensive collection of little bits and bobs, as I've seen in his studio, boxes labelled with chicken skulls and real parts and bones and. You name it, he has it.
So where I'm just trying to think, where would Patrick fit? Is there a category for this type of art?
Nature-inspired, historically grounded storytelling through different mediums. But also I understand he writes as well. So he's overall kind of multimedia artist. The last one I'd like to mention of his artworks, which is perhaps easiest to describe on radio, is called Tenonfish. It's another object that he played with, the setup of the object. It's a handle from a saw, wooden handle, and instead of the saw blade part, instead of that he put a fish bone fan, so you've got the whole fish bone with the sides of fish popping up, which is I can't categorize that. It's very very weird and quirky object to look at, but thought provoking at the same time.
Okay. I'm trying to picture Patrick. I really am, because I mean, I so don't want him to look like a mad scientist. I'm like, I love the name, by the way, Patrick StPaul. But you know, the work you're describing, I'm like, where is this guy coming from? You know, what's making him thinking about getting these bones and these skulls?
I think, from my understanding, is that stay in the mountains where he lived in Scotland for a year has influenced his creative thinking a lot. And also he was telling me about a story one night. They went to a forest and he was training as a guide there, and they had no torches, nothing, and they were just left there in the forest, and they could hear the deers around them approaching them, you know, and that was something that he keeps stays in his mind, he told me, forever, and that's something that drives him as well, that wildness.
Yeah. Remind our listeners of the website address again for us to see Patrick StPaul's work.
Yes, it is www.patrickstpaul.com, which is Patrick, standardly spelled PatrickStPaul.com.
I do urge you to go and have a look at this website. I urge you to, honestly, it looks like a science lab. And I suppose, as Sylvia said, you know, make of it as you will.
Yes.
So, Sylvia, thank you so much for honouring Patrick StPaul on this month's Artist of the Month. And we look forward to next month.
Thanks, Rosemary. Thanks for having me.